the presentation, what I'm hoping is that this is just, it should be light, it should be, you know, just kind of a chance to slow down. Everybody's been so busy, everybody's been trying to, you know, navigate and manage so much stuff. And so what my hope was with this particular presentation is really just give a chance to check in, get a little bit of perspective around what we're all doing and what we're trying to navigate, and then what we can do to try to make the most of it and maybe even find some things that help us flourish. Again, my name's Sean Doyle. I'm a poet. I taught positive psychology at North Carolina State for about 10 years. So the basis of some of the stuff I'm going to be talking about was in an article that I published on Psychology Today last week. This week I'm going to do another one that builds upon that and gets into a little bit more of the stuff that we talk about today. But that site is the Luminous Things blog on Psychology Today. But so, like I said, so the talk should be about 30 minutes total, and then really open up to questions. And I really want, I'm accustomed to giving presentations live and turning them more into a discussion rather than me sitting here yammering at you. Hopefully, with the chat function, it'll become that as we go through. So I want to just start out with a quick story to help set the stage and help set a little bit of a context. In the late 1930s, at the end of the Spanish Civil War, hundreds of people, if not thousands, were forced to go into hiding, into internal exile, to escape repression by the Franco government. They lived silently, hidden under the floors of their homes, behind the walls in their houses or in other people's houses. They knew that they couldn't be heard, that they never knew who might turn them into the authorities, and so they didn't even want their neighbors to know that they were there. This wasn't just a few weeks of social distancing or whatever else. They stayed hidden behind the walls until the end of the Franco regime, roughly 30 years later. It was 30 years after the end of the Spanish Civil War that hundreds of people came out of hiding, people that were behind the walls in their own houses all these years, watching their children grow up from behind picture frames and things along those lines, watching their grandchildren. And so I wanted to use that as kind of a background. We're all having to adapt to what really are unusual times for us. It's difficult, it's hard, it's uncomfortable, but you can do this. We can absolutely manage the stuff that we're faced with right now. Thinking about what's going on with COVID-19 right now, I mean, it's absolutely serious. Thousands have lost their lives or have lost loved ones. I worry about the small businesses and the people who can't go to work. But most of us ultimately are going to be okay. You know, the steps that we're taking to contain it are difficult. They create anxiety and stress. But most of us have clean water. We have indoor plumbing, the internet, the power grid is stable. There's no civil war or famine. You know, the restrictive steps that we're taking are frustrating and produce anxiety, but this is something we can all handle. So that's the first part of the perspective, is that this is something very manageable, something that we can all handle. But I also want to make sure that people don't lose sight that the stresses are absolutely real. There's, you know, I think we've all seen different memes floating around on the internet about, you know, all we're being asked to do is sit on the couch and watch TV. And those, I think what they're doing is they're underappreciating how stressful it is for people. It used to be just a few weeks ago, if I needed a gallon of milk, I would just go to the grocery store. I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to plan it. I just went in and got it. Now, everything we do requires planning and thought and deliberate action. I have to think about the time of day to go so that the crowds won't be as bad. I have to make sure that I've got a mask and gloves and wipe down and keep away from people. All of that takes energy, it takes planning, and it's exhausting. And so that's not just exhausting for us, but that's what everybody's going through. Every small thing that we have to do that we've never had to think about or plan before now takes very deliberate action. And so it requires a lot of self-regulation, which then wears us out. And again, it's not just us that's going through it. It's everybody else around us as well. And so that's kind of the other half of the perspective on this is, one, we can do this. We can absolutely navigate it. But two, recognize that this strain really is real, and that people are going to be a little shorter with each other and maybe snap at each other, your spouse or your kids or your coworkers, and really to try to just be patient with one another, to be forgiving of yourself. I know I haven't been my best self throughout this whole endeavor too, and to really honor what people are going through, because it's this is something that's unusual, but it's something that we can manage. So really the first thing, be gentle with one another. Recognize that we're you have been signed out. Can people still hear me? I just got a message I was signed out. Somebody could send me a note. Okay, good. I don't know what that was about. So so be gentle with each other, be patient with one another, and just kind of recognize where people are in the process. The second thing is, when life is the circumstances we're dealing with now are difficult, they're painful, most of us don't like it, but really in a lot of ways that's the way life works. There's so much in life that's unfair, that's unjust, that's difficult, that sometimes we just have to say, all right, I don't like it, what can I do anyway? Here's the cards that I've been handed. What can I, what do I have control over? What can I do with that? You might want to give yourself a few minutes to kind of gripe and complain or joke around with your friends about it. But then at the end of the day, it's about what is it that we can do so that we can still grow closer to our friends, find those things that nurtures us and causes us to be our best and our most centered. And then we can all get through this together. So there's a few things that I'm going to float out there, but then I'm really, hoping that other folks will share ideas too about what it is that we've got some sort of control over. The first thing I want to just mention is gratitude. A lot of times people think of things like gratitude as kind of soft or touchy-feely, but really it's a unbelievably powerful resilience strategy, because whatever we're going through, every one of us can reach out there and find something, whether it's something big or something little, that we can feel grateful about and recognize that there's good stuff in our lives, and it helps provide a context for what's important to us. And really it puts our whole life in a bigger context. There's work that I do here in Raleigh, North Carolina at a men's drug and alcohol rehab center. And here's guys that they're going through some really difficult stuff. And one thing we always talk about is, what are some of the things you're grateful for? And here people are who are, navigating some of the hardest things that people might have to face in life. that have shredded a lot of relationships that they've had. You know, have had all sorts of damage to all sorts of aspects of their lives. But everybody can latch on to something, and it's by holding on to those sorts of things that can help us maintain our center, so that when things are hard, we've got something to hold on to, which is one of the reasons that I identify gratitude as a resilience strategy. If you would, in the chat section, if people could just start, you know, posting some of the things that you're grateful for in the middle of all this stuff. Got someone that said their health, family dinners. Yeah, that's a great one. My keep posting stuff. My college-age daughters came home, and you know, everybody's usually so busy, and now, you know, we're all able to spend a little more time together. Springtime birds are chirping, walks in the neighborhood, family dinners, banana bread, windy day, which provides clean air, nature, these webinars. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much around us. I mean, the thing is the way that we're wired, the bad stuff in our lives demands our attention, and ultimately is stronger than the good things, and stronger in terms of attention. The theory around that is that, you know, when our ancestors or cavemen or whoever were out wandering around, they're noticing the berry bushes. You know, there's a source of food. They're noticing the babbling brook and all, which is a source of water. There's all these things that they're noticing. They walk around the corner and there's a bear or a saber-toothed tiger. Well, all of a sudden your attention is, you know, no longer on the berry bush. You're paying attention to the threat that's there. You know, with the idea being that if you miss one food source, you might, you know, you'll probably be okay. If you miss one predator, that's probably the end of things. And so we ended up being wired to notice the bad stuff, which is good and adaptive and really served us well. But what it means is that, especially when things aren't going well, we might have to take a little bit of more work and take a little more effort to notice the stuff in our lives that's really working well and that's good for us. So also see a cup of coffee makes things feel so much better. Grateful to live in a time when it's so easy to connect over the distances. Yeah, I mean, that's been one of the really neat things about, one of the neat discoveries about the sheltering in place is, I mean, if you think about just a few years ago, when we would make if you wanted to talk to a friend in another time zone or another area, we'd have to pay long distance charges by the minute. You know, and so now we're having to, now we've got the ability to do these video chats for free or for relatively low cost, and really can connect with people. One of my hopes is that once all this is over, we will have adapted and developed some new strategies that we can tap into, that we can continue to use, such as connecting with people over these technologies. Let's see, some of the other things that people said they were grateful for: doing things around the house that otherwise would not have time to complete. Yeah, we've emptied a lot of boxes, cleaned out the attic, gotten a lot of that stuff done. Extra time with family. Yeah, it doesn't take much effort to look around us and find so many things that we can be grateful for. That's a good practice to do anyway, but especially when you're feeling like things are getting too much, or things are just difficult to manage or navigate, you can just say, you know, what's just one thing that I feel really grateful for? That really helps tap into some of the good stuff. So that's one strategy. So the two things so far that I mentioned that we do have some sort of control over is, one is being gentle with one another. Somebody just mentioned along lines with that, something they're grateful for is the acts of kindness seen in the grocery store. That's one thing that's always inspiring to me is, yes, you'll absolutely have people who take advantage of one another or try to take advantage of circumstances. But on balance, most people really want to take care of one another, offer kindnesses to one another. People are stressed. They're having to navigate new things. They might be a little testy, so it might not always come across. But at the end of the day, um, I really feel inspired by the kindnesses that people offer to one another. So another thing that kind of related to the gratitude is looking for the beautiful things around us. We had a couple of people in the chat mention kind of the birds in the park and things blossoming right now. Um, there's so much around us that is easy to overlook when we're in our daily lives and just so busy. But if you look for them, there's a lot of goodness out there. Someone in our neighborhood has, with Easter coming up around the corner, and kids usually going to Easter egg hunts, who obviously can't do that in groups at the current time. Someone in the neighborhood has painted rocks to look like eggs, polka dots and bright colors and stripes, and hid them in a natural wooded park right across the street from our house, and hung up a sign asking the kids not to touch them because they don't want to spread any germs, but so that they could go around, look for them, take pictures of them, and post them on the neighborhood Facebook page, and then they'll give out a prize at the end. And it's just been wonderful watching all the little kids and their families walk around the park, the excitement that they have when they find these. And my 22-year-old daughter, who's home from school, we even went out, we were poking around, and it was just a nice opportunity to spend time with one another. Again, these are difficult times. It's stuff that we have to navigate and manage that we're not accustomed to, but there really are some nice opportunities to connect and focus on some of the beautiful things that keep us centered, so that we can respond in the ways that we're at our best, and that we can flourish despite everything that's going on. Another thing that people are saying, some of the comments, people are using this as an opportunity to learn something new, or to tap into something that they've always wanted to do before. I got on YouTube to look up birds in central North Carolina, and I've been learning the bird songs. And so just sitting out on the porch, the nature, the woods have come alive for me in a way that it hasn't been before, because it feels so much more personal, knowing the sound. Like, I'll hear a bird's call and say, oh, that's a nuthatch. And I'm excited that I know what that is. So there's all these opportunities that are right there if we look for them, things that we can latch on to and really dig into. How about, so other things in the chats, other things that people are doing to maintain their center and tap into the good stuff that you've got in your lives. And people could share whatever you're thinking there. Cooking together, yeah, that's a great it's a neat opportunity. Keep the comments coming. It's funny, my sister has never been interested in cooking. That's never been a big thing for her. And now that she's home with her daughters, she's been doing a whole bunch more in the kitchen, and they're having a lot of fun. It's an opportunity to connect. Family games, that's another thing that people are savoring, finding more time to reach out to friends and family that are located far away. Yeah, these are all some good things. Laying in the driveway, looking at the clouds, that's wonderful. Writing letters to family. Yeah, how often we've stopped writing letters as a culture. That's a really neat opportunity to be able to do that. And how exciting it is when I get a letter in my mailbox as opposed to an email. These are all great. A Zoom family reunion. Yeah, no, that's a neat opportunity. Yeah, to connect with people that, yeah, maybe you see one another or call on the phone, but to actually pull people together and spend a little bit of time with one another. Yeah, and these are some of the practices that I do think once everything's back to normal, that some of these things are things that we can continue to do and that will even enrich our lives at a whole nother layer um, and, and richness to what we're doing. Looking at museums online, yeah, there's so much that we can do. We have one person who indicated in the chat that they're a doctor in India and that they are grateful to be able to serve and work in that area. And yeah, I mean, so something that this whole crisis is bringing out is the ways in which our lives matter. So some of it is things like that. I mean, when you're actually out there on the front line taking care of people, that provides a whole nother layer of meaning and value to lives. But then for others of us, the ability to reach out and recognize the effect that we have on others. There's a lot of people that are really having a hard time at home and not being able to reach out and do some of the things that they typically do. A simple phone call or a simple connection over Zoom or reaching out to somebody. You never know when it's going to affect someone in a big way. We can all probably all think about times in our lives when somebody has said something or done something that changed us fundamentally, that changed the course of our lives, changed the career we go into, or what it is that how we think about ourselves. And it could be a positive change. It certainly could be a negative change too. But most likely what happened is whenever that other person did that thing or said that thing that made the big impact on us, they probably didn't know that at that moment they were going to have such a big effect on you. The lesson for me in that is that keep putting the good stuff out there, keep reaching out to people, keep extending yourself, because you never know when you are going to connect with somebody in that way, and that when you're going to make that big of an influence on someone. I was doing a presentation for a group at one point talking about these trigger moments, and someone in the audience stood up who was a teacher and had said that he was a teacher and he was the choir leader at a middle school, and they didn't have a lot of the boys in the choir. And so what he was trying to get more boys to join the choir. So he was going out of his way to reach to these middle school boys to join. And you know, this one kid joined and stayed with it, and then after, you know, stayed in touch with his teacher in high school and went off to college and invited the teacher to his wedding. So it's the teacher telling this story. And he said that at the wedding, his former student, pulled him aside and said, "I don't know if you knew this, but at the time when I was in middle school, I was really struggling. I was going through some tough stuff, and I was thinking about ending my life. But because you reached out, because of the extra care and time that you spent with me, that really made a big difference." And, you know, so, you know, went on to college and now met the person of his dreams and was getting married and all these wonderful things rolled out of it. And the teacher's telling the story and said, "I wish I knew what I'd said. I was just trying to get more boys to join the choir." So we've all got that ability, that as people are going through this really unusual time, and even once we're back to our regular lives, to reach out and you know, just be a little more gentle with each other and a little more caring to people, because you never know when you're going to provide that spark or that trigger moment for them that really fundamentally presents them and changes their lives in a fundamental way. Okay, so I've got a question asking for tips to teach my patients, this is the physician, on how to look for positivity in even these desperate times. So part of it is it has to be active. I mean, it's when things are a little bit easier, sometimes it's easy just to notice the good things. It takes some deliberate effort to look and see what is it that you're grateful for. What in your life is going on that's well? Where is there something that's beautiful that I can latch on to? And these don't have to be big earth-shattering things. When I do it with the recovering addicts, well, at one point somebody said clean white socks. You know, when everything else is slipping away, that's something that you can really hold on to. And sometimes that's all you need is one little thing that you can hold on to, which kind of gets you going to the next stage. So that's one, is ask them just kind of deliberately reflect on what is it something that they're grateful for. These are, you know, everybody can find something. Another thing, what are the things that connect us with our center to who we most are? Kind of tapping into your strengths of character. So for me, I mentioned at the start of the call, I'm a poet, so I do a lot of writing and a lot of reading poetry. And so sometimes just that slowing down and immersing myself and savoring the language and the words and the images and the ideas is a way for me to come back into my center, so that when everything else is going on, it makes it a little bit more obvious, the good stuff that's around me and the positive things that are around me. Those are a couple things to tap into. For people who can, exercise is unbelievably powerful for our mental health. You know, it's great for burning calories. You know, that's you know, it's got those benefits too, the physical benefits. But in a lot of ways, exercise is really for our brain and for our mental health, and all the other physical benefits are just kind of a side benefit almost. What I've been finding in the middle of all this is I've been making sure to take time to go out and do some exercise every day. And what that does is it brings you back into your center, helps you remain a little bit more focused and able to spot the things that are good and worthwhile in your lives. So what else? What are some other things that people are doing to maintain your center, to recognize the positivity that's around you, or any questions that you have? If you, like I said, this was scheduled for about 30 minutes with, I don't know, 15 minutes of questions or so. So anything at all that you want to raise, we'll go through them. We've got somebody had raised reviewing photos on their phones and capturing positive emotions to savor. Yeah, that's a great opportunity to be able to do that. What are some other things that people are doing to notice the good stuff that's around you? So we had somebody mention something that Thich Nhat Hanh once said, that if you can't think of what to be grateful for and don't have a toothache, be grateful that you do not have a toothache. Yeah, I mean, that there's really so much, you know, the fact that I can get up out of bed every day and, you know, just get up and move around the house. You know, we take those all you need is to hurt your leg to then realize how grateful the good things that we have that we just skip over every day and don't even pay attention to because they seem so normal to us. So what else? Is there any other questions that people have, or other ideas that people want to share with one another? Trying to snapshot the sentiment and feelings of this time in music. Yeah, music is such a powerful medium for for communicating to us, not just in the words themselves, not just in the message that targets kind of our cognitive ability, but music can speak to us on an emotional level, because we're more than just, cognitive beings. We exist on so many multiple levels, and things like music can cut through a lot of that other stuff and really touch us where we are as human beings. What's some music that I've had a couple people in the chat bring up music? What are some of the music that you're turning to that's bringing some sort of meaning or value or to you? Oh, we had one person indicate that it's their 27th wedding anniversary today. So congratulations, David. That's thrilling. Stay in and have a great time. The Motown songs, yeah, there's so much to savor. So a couple more people commented on exercise, that one of the things with exercise is there really is a gift to them to just being able to move and focusing on the joy of movement, and that it's a celebration. Snuggling with their pets, puppy time, movie soundtracks is some of the things people are tapping into. I've recently discovered, I've been watching some more movies, recently discovered the films of Andrew Tarkovsky, who's a Soviet filmmaker who Ingmar Bergman said was the greatest filmmaker of all time. So you have Bergman saying that somebody else was the greatest and pointing to Tarkovsky. His films are, they're visual poems. They're absolutely spectacular. Reading the subtitles unless you know Russian, but yeah, more things around us that we can tap into. Okay, any other thoughts or questions or things that we can cover in the last few minutes here? Okay, I'm not seeing anything else pop up. So I hope this was worthwhile for folks. Like I said, it was intended to be really casual and just a chance to kind of step back and focus on some of the things that that we've got around us, and just remember that while there's so much that's out of our control, we do have the ability to look and see, okay, what is it that I can control? What are the things that I can savor? What are the things that I have that I can appreciate? And recognize that what we're going through, is difficult, but that we're going to make out just fine. Most of us will make out just fine. And before we know it, we'll all be back to our normal lives again. So I want to thank everybody for checking in. Continue to go look at that list of webinars. There's a whole bunch of speakers, a whole bunch of topics. Some of them will be a little bit more formal, some will be more casual. Look in there, see what it is that that resonates with you. Of course, these will all be available on YouTube afterwards as well, if there's ones you missed that you wanted to see. And right now I'm scheduled to do another one May 1st on applied poetics. So we're going to look specifically at art and music and literature, and tapping into the beauty of those mediums, and allowing that to connect with living our lives as works of art. So that one will be coming up in about a month. So I want to thank everybody. I hope everybody does well, and keep taking care of one another, keep being gentle with one another. All right. Thanks very much.